things are not going well.
The people coming out now don't even really know that, kind of know the difference or the way things were done before.
They were never good old days.
We have been bred to be competitive and oftentimes not collaborative.
We have to feel that there's a human aspect.
And there's that dangerous middle ground.
Really only 6 to 8% of the total healthcare spend.
Everything's electronic. They can already tell who I am, what I do, what I have.
You had to get the highest scores on a board. This is our big fight.
I confess in every situation.
It's like the world against primary care.
Patients would heal much faster.
So there's a problem here, right?
And the tagline says,
I'm shocked.
We got all our venting out. There's a lot of,
I think we just
got
started.
serious really fast.
I'm shocked. I mean, where do I even begin?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Six. I'm so excited, and this is going to be the first episode of what I hope is going to be a really incredible limited series that we are hosting on SoMeDocs and that I will be moderating with these fantastic people that you see on the screen right now, or that you're going to be hearing to in just a few minutes. I'm going to have each of them just tell us your name and give us one sentence that summarizes who you are. And we'll start with Regina since she's at the top.
I don't know how I got the privilege, but thank you, Dana, for having me and looking forward to meeting everybody virtually. I'm Regina Drews, and people probably do know me. I'm an integrative cardiologist and digital health enthusiast and a business coach. And that's that.
I love that. Let's go down to Susan Baumgartel.
Hey, I'm Susan Baumgartel, and I'm an internal medicine advocate for patients. I'm an ally to colleagues, and I do medical consultation and patient advocacy.
Beautiful. Bradley Block.
I'm a private practice otolaryngologist and host of the Physician's Guide to Doctoring podcast, where we cover everything we should have been learning while we were memorizing Krebs cycle.
Beautiful. Franchelle Hamilton.
Hello, I am a bariatric surgeon, also board certified in obesity medicine, founder of NeuroSwitch Weight Loss. And so I am an innovator of obesity, and I also help providers set up weight loss practices.
Fantastic. Lola Day.
Hello, guys. I am Dr. Lola Day. I am a pediatric endocrinologist and a life coach who focuses on ADHD and all things women.
Wow. A+, guys, for succinctness. So good job on that. All right. So to the crux of our show. So we are basically going to be flashing individual social media posts to the 5 gathered here with us today. We'll then discuss, diagnose, and dissect each one until we're ready to move on to the next, okay? But we're not just here to speak in silos. We're looking to hear from you out there in the audience too. So we'll be throwing out some challenges in between too, and you can interact along with us by posting your own takes on social media using our hashtag SoMeDocs5. So without further ado, let's start this out. Oh, the only other thing I want to say is that with each post that we share, we'd like to give credit to the person who actually posted them. So a big thank you to those of you who are active on social media, because without you, we may not have had a show. All right, now we're going to first watch this, and then I'm going to unshare the screen. I see that people are already laughing, so that's good. And a lot of this is meant in humor. Okay. Okay. So I am going to stop sharing. I couldn't tell who was laughing and who wasn't. Obviously, there's humor and there's not humor. So Regina, it looks like you are laughing. Let's start with you. Just initial take before the question.
I'll bet you this post was probably done by a cardiologist or procedural physician, right? Because the last thing you want when you're wheeling a patient in and about to put them onto that cast table is a well-meaning relative saying, "Oh, I actually work in healthcare." And, they want to give you their take on what you should or shouldn't be doing. But that said, I think there is actually some maybe sadness behind the laughter, because I think what's happening here is that we have dehumanized patients so much, and the system is so barbaric in many ways, really processing individuals like making tires in a factory, that people are looking for these common points, points of attachment, because, we're social beings, and on social media, the points of attachment have to happen. We have to have some relations with our physicians and nurses. We have to feel that there's a human aspect. And I think that's what patients or relatives are trying to do, right? They're trying to bridge that gap. They want human connection. So, it is funny, but it's also a little bit sad, to see this.
Who's next? Jump in.
I'll take this. So my experience in this has been there's really going to be one of two reactions on their part if they work in healthcare. Either they're just letting you know that they work in healthcare so you can speak to them in a little more sophisticated way that you might not speak to other patients, and then they'll quietly listen to what you have to say. Then there's the other side where instead of listening and trying to absorb the information, they're just waiting for their turn to talk so they can show you how much they know. In which case, then it's just a lot of interruptions. They never let you finish what you're saying, never let you finishing explaining, because then they're just waiting to show you how much knowledge they have. And so it can be, it's either one or the other, and it's very rarely anything in between.
Oh my gosh, you're pessimistic. See, I had a whole different take. I was excited to hear Regina and Brad because you know what? I thought of something entirely different. I thought they are wanting to connect with the system because the system is so screwed up and accessing anything is crazy these days. They don't know how to navigate it. So it's like a secret password, like, oh, I have a family member that works in healthcare. Ding, ding, ding. They feel like there's going to be a fast lane or some way to connect in a way that they haven't been able to. So I think it's like almost a plea for help.
It is. They're looking for a VIP pass maybe, but you know what? There is also, I had this experience recently because I had a bunch of medical appointments, and I told the physician that I'm a doctor, I'm a cardiologist, and it's sort of they're not judgmental, but they cannot really switch from a patient speak to a doctor speak. And at one point I said, that's okay. You can speak to me the way that you do to all of your patients. You don't have to translate what you have prepared into medical terms. It's completely fine. But, I said this, being exactly as in this vignette, trying to be helpful and kind of trying to make their life easier, but it actually was harder for them. So, so I went back into my patient box.
I'm going to take a whole different total take on this. And it's not a judgmental take, but I think sometimes when patients' family, like I'm in healthcare, the first question I ask is, great, which part of healthcare? Because I do think it helps the physician gauge like how to help the patients particularly. But there's a part that we're not talking about. There is some patients' family who are in healthcare where they know a lot, but not enough. And there's that dangerous middle ground where it sometimes can not always be helpful. And sometimes we may need our patient advocate. That's why I'm so glad we have our patient advocate here to help bridge that gap. Because there, even sometimes, even me as a mom, like when I take my daughter in, I like to be the parent and let the doctor be the doctor, right? And there are a lot of doctors who say, I don't want him to know I'm a doctor because I want the physician to do their job. I've also seen the opposite where they're like, I am this person, or maybe I'm a pediatric cardiologist, for example. I've had many adult ICU nurses try to tell me how to treat a newborn baby with a heart condition, say this medicine wouldn't work. I'm like, yeah, in adults, yes, but not in this case. And sometimes the patients may be even confused because they trust their family member. And I think our jobs as a physician is to maybe bring that family member into it and kind of explain to them from our standpoint, not necessarily antagonizing, right? It's we're a team. Like I love to come with a team approach to this, but I do think it's very important for us to kind of determine, okay, in what box is this healthcare member in? Because that helps us guide in helping the patient. Because at the end of it all, the patient is what matters.
Franchelle?
Yeah, so I actually agree with Dr. Block, and that may be because he's also a fellow surgeon, but they are, I've only had them in these two categories that he spoke about. Either they are, you know, hey, it's okay, like you don't have to explain the different type of meds and surgical procedures, like I understand some of that, or B, most of the time, honestly, when they say healthcare, and not that there's like any you know, like priority or anything, but a lot of them are like they draw blood or something, you know, and based on being a lobotomist, now they're gonna like they know all of this stuff about meds, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like so usually my first reaction is, oh great, you know what I'm saying? Because it's usually I run into people who have just a little bit of medical knowledge and then try to be almost like too dangerous. Like with some of people, that's been my predominant experience. Either, and if they're a nurse or a doctor, it's almost like what Bradley was saying. He was like, hey, just so you know, you can explain to me on these terms, I understand. Or they'll ask more questions like, oh, really? What about this? And you're like, oh, you almost can communicate with them a little bit better versus the people that, oh, I draw blood, so I know how to do this procedure, and you can just back away type of thing. And you're just like, okay. And usually when I go I'm a parent, I actually try not to say anything unless something comes up and they're getting to, and then I'm like, yes, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. Almost as gives the physician, like, I'm on your side, like I understand where you're coming from. So I usually don't say anything when I go as the parent. So
That's a great segue into the follow-up questions, and everyone hold on to your seats. This coming from someone who has admittedly said this at a visit. Have each of you done this?
Today.
Yeah. We all done this.
I had a consult today with an oncologist I've never met for my recent cancer. And I thought, okay, I can just, see, this is the problem. Maybe it's not a problem. In our world, everything's electronic. They can already tell who I am, what I do, what I have. So it's like no mystery who I am. But I think the first question she asked, well, what kind of doctor are you? Because maybe that's, if I was a dermatologist, that's different than a brain surgeon, that's different than a, so on and so forth. But I think it really leveled the playing field. It allowed us to go from like 0 to 60 right away. We didn't have to cover all these different things. And for me, it was relief because I didn't have to like prove myself. And I even told her, I said, look, I'm taking the doctor hat off. I'm a patient here today. But I know that, I know all about these other medications you're going to talk about, and these procedures and so forth. So you don't have to go into great detail. So it made it actually much, much more sane for me.
Anyone else care to admit?
yeah, I'll jump in because I had this recently.
We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, Donna Coriel from SoMeDocs. SoMeDocs has just newly released its Side Venture series. It joins a stellar lineup of other fabulous video and podcast series, including Entrepreneurship in Healthcare, SoMeDocs Conversations, and more. In fact, we're working with our members to create more interesting and unique shows to share with you. But if you're interested in side ventures, we do also have a Facebook group that's been built just for doctors that are curious on what else. Check out the Facebook groups that we manage at doctorsonsocialmedia.com/our-Facebook-groups. I'll see you there.
Back to our show. Anyone else care to admit?
Yeah, I'll jump in because I had this recently. So that's the way I approach it when I'm on the other side too. And that's what I was saying. Like most of the time I don't say anything, but there are times when I step in, and almost like confirmation. I understand where you're coming from, you know, and then that way we can skip a lot of the more detailed explanations. And I think it's usually, you know, it's usually fine. Most physicians kind of appreciate that. And so I agree with that also.
But do you keep it a secret until the last minute and then like drop the bomb that, by the way, I'm a physician? Or
I have.
do you like like hint at it? Like how do you segue that information in there? Because I'm always not sure how to do it myself. Like walk in and be like, oh, I'm a doctor, or then like hide it from, you know, not let them know and then maybe mention it towards the end.
I don't know if I hide it, but I personally, when I go in, I really do want to be a patient because I have been in a situation where, yes, I'm a pediatric cardiologist, but I don't know anything about this part of it. And because they know I'm a cardiologist, they skip some things that I actually really want to know. So there are times where, especially when it comes to like surgical things, I do not necessarily hide it, but I don't say much about it. And then towards the end, I'm like, I really appreciate that. You know, I am a physician as well, and I appreciate that, that. And a lot of times they're like, oh, no wonder you understood when I said this, and you said that it makes sense now. So I don't know if I'm necessarily hiding it versus I really want to just be a physician. I mean, a patient and not a physician in that setting. Because sometimes, like you say, they jump in and like, oh, thank God you're a physician. I don't have to do any of this, but maybe I do want that. I do want that simplicity. I do want, especially if there's another family member like my kids or, you know, I do want them to be part of the conversation. As a fetal cardiologist, I do a lot of counseling, and I actually ask my patients and their partners or family member if they are in healthcare. I actually ask mainly so I know how to speak to them and in what detail they want. And I tend to speak at the, I don't want to use the word lowest, but at, you know, the non-healthcare language, and then I can now go into detail for the person who's in healthcare, because I feel like that helps me.
I
Sometimes
guess
we can
I
tell.
confess right away because I confess in every situation that I'm a physician. But you know, it brings up a different point because we're so used to have a certain template for communicating with patient and family members, right? You know, we're coached, you go through medical school, there's even some role playing, but you know, people want to be communicated on different terms. Just if we ask a patient, do you wish to receive an email or disclose your cell phone number? Well, that's great, but also how do you wish to communicate? You know, whether in healthcare or not, do you wish us to use medical terms or do you wish us to use simpler terms? Because I have patients who are not in healthcare, but because they're focused on wellness and prevention, and I do a lot of integrative approaches, holistic approaches. A lot of these patients have done their research, they have educated themselves, they know the terms, they can put it together. So I think we need to fine tune how we're communicating, you know, and just really match it with the person, show some genuine interest. If somebody says, oh, I'm also in healthcare, maybe what they want is just, you know, for you to say, hey, what are you doing? Welcome, my name is so and so, and just be warm and receptive, and you know, let them feel that they're there in the right place with people who care, you know. But you're totally right about being a patient. I always, after I confess right away. So I'm a cardiologist, so you should know this. But I said, you can speak to me any way you wish, you know, and that's that. And that actually breaks the ice almost right away.
Because frankly, you know, you can make the analogy, if you have an attorney patient, a trial attorney, wouldn't you like to know that at the beginning, not at the very end?
Right.
That's an interesting comment. Yeah. Yeah. You would want to know.
Right.
I do have one of the shared posts today deals with law, but I'm not going to go straight into that one because I just wasn't prepared for you to say that. But that would have been a great segue. All right, let's go to the next one. This has been great conversation. So here goes the next one. So as you can see, I hope that you can see these pictures right here, but the tweet goes, imagine if hospitals were filled with natural light, greenery, and warm colors instead of the sterile, windowless, and blue light polluted prisons they've become. Patients would heal much faster. Now, well, I'll take the photo off, assuming that you saw it. We did share this recently in our SoMeDocs Facebook group. So we got some discussion already going on this. So we're primed. If you're in that group, you're primed. For those listening, that Facebook group's open for any doctors who has a profile inside of our doctor directory. So I'm going to ask the 6. Would patients heal much faster? Take it away, whoever wants to first.
Maybe that's why the pediatric patients heal faster. Just kidding. Because peds hospitals are very fun and nice and beautiful. No, I don't think they will heal faster. But I do think when I saw that post, and I don't think I saw it in some, I think I saw it somewhere else. I think what they were trying to communicate was if the hospital felt homey, right? Like, there's the medicine aspect of it, and then there's a psychological aspect of things. There are times where we encourage patients, like I have babies, for example, who have G-tube. We go ahead and place G-tube on them, and it's like, trust me, when they're home in the environment, they tend to do better, right? So there's been a lot of studies on that. So when I saw that was my first thought on it. And not necessarily, I don't necessarily think, medicine, you heal better sterile versus non-sterile. But I do think there is a psychological component to the home feeling.
Well, we can't have ivy crawling on the wall because we have, patients that are immunosuppressed that could potentially get like fungal infections. So there's like a lot of practical stuff that's involved in this. Also, like all the money that you have to spend, all the overhead. And I think the person that created this post was intentionally doing it like as triggering, like the blue light poisoned prisons that we've created. Come on. Like, yes, it's not like as aesthetically pleasing as someone might like. And yes, you can put all this stuff in the hallway, but that's going to make less room for all the crap that we put in the hallway because it's more of like for storage for anyone that's worked in the operating room. I think I understand also the point that this person was trying to make, and I think healthcare is trying to do this better, right? Like the new thing is patient experience. That's actually something that I'm working on in my own and in charge of in some ways in my own practice is we are integrating patient experience and trying to find ways. And actually I've had a bunch of people on my podcast, and I had someone who like was the dean of a hospitality school, and he wrote a book on it. And I asked him, he was like, "Oh, you have to have like better colors instead of these like sterile white." I was like, "Okay, what's the most common color?" And I think his answer was, I don't know. So, there might be, we can do research on this and find which is, because we're good at that in medicine and healthcare. We can find which is the most soothing color. We can extract every last drop of data that we can get before we make a decision on what color to paint the walls. So I think we're looking at this stuff and we're trying to figure it out. And a lot of ways in healthcare, we're like behind the ball. Like the hospitality industry has been on customer experience for a long time, but we're in our infancy, right? We just got computers. We still use fax machines. Like, give us a break, give us a chance. But I think we are working on this stuff to try and make it a better environment for patients and not just a place to, I think someone said something to this regard earlier, a place to process patients, right? Like, we're working on it. We're working on it.
But I think we're missing a forest for the trees because, I agree with you, Brett, for sure. There are a lot of hospitality efforts, a lot of healthcare systems, they hire chief patient experience officer or even somebody with a background in hospitality industries. And honestly, there are hospitals like these. I visited hospitals like these. They're usually overseas and some are even domestic. I was recently in a brand new ambulatory pavilion right here locally where I live. And it was absolutely beautiful architecture and design. Everything was top notch. It wasn't like a hospital at all, but the essence of hospital was still there because once again, despite the beautiful furniture, all the patients were seated in the same waiting area and all the patients were called by name in front of everyone else. And, as you approach the counter to get whatever you need to get done, everybody sort of looks at you and everybody processes. So what do they have? What is it they don't have? So that sense that you're not a person, that you're just a cog, you know, in a mass of people, one of many. You're faceless and you're nameless. It's still there. So, you know, and I think right now you can make a very pretty place, and that's true. But if people are still subjected to this very dehumanizing and transactional approach from the medical staff, they're not going to feel good, right? They're not going to feel special, because you may, of course, you know, notice these beautiful surroundings, but after the novelty wears off, you know, it's really how people relate to you, which is key. And I think that's where hotel industry got it really well, right? Because you have all these levels of memberships and loyalty programs, and they look you straight in the eye, and they call you by your name, and they smile. I mean, where's the last time, or when is the last time somebody did that in a hospital setting?
Well, that's
No.
what I mean. We're working on that. That is something
Yeah.
that's actively being tackled and handled. Like staff members are being trained in this. And
Yeah.
the other thing, they're being treated better, because what we find is when you treat your staff better, they're less likely to leave. So it lowers overhead. There's a financial gain there, and they treat your patients better. So they feel like you're more invested in them. They're going to be more invested in the patient. So that's actually like all those things that you're concerned about. That stuff is happening. It's actually a really exciting time to be in medicine.
100%, but it has nothing to do with color, because you know this is really about people. I think color in this setting is just the backdrop. It's not about the plants. It's not about the color. It's, as you said, it's about the people. If people are warm and happy to be there interacting with the patients, then the patient will have a great experience, feel good, and hopefully heal faster. You know, so I think putting tons of money into color and beautiful architecture is only going to get people that far. You know, I agree with you about the people 100%.
Lola, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna throw in a little wrench in our conversation. I do think it's very important we treat patients as humans, and you know, I totally agree with what you're saying. But I do think there's a fine line between patient care and what we're moving into, which almost seems like consumerism with hospitality and, oh, how does the patient feel from a consumer standpoint? And even there's some hospitals now that call patients our guests, you know. And I think we need to go back to the essence of medicine. I mean, again, I'm a pediatrician. I love colors. I personally prefer a colorful hospital. It makes me happy. But at the end of the day, one thing you did say that was very important to me is how we treat our staff, how we treat the patient. And I think that's really the main essence. And if medicine goes back to that, these patients will heal a lot more faster than, you know, trying to make them into consumers, or trying to, you know, turn the hospital into the hospitality business. While I do appreciate some part of hospitality, I do think we're also now moving a little bit too much into consumerism in medicine, which is also not healthy personally.
I actually agree with Lola. And then I was also going to say we had several, I'm in Texas, so we had a lot of physician-owned hospitals that were very much hotel-like, and they all closed, to be honest. So we had the look of, you know, you walk in, it looks like a hotel, but to be honest, insurance reimbursements are still insurance reimbursements. That is very costly to have those types of, you know, looks and feel where they can order, you know, kind of food and all of these things. I mean, that's very costly, and I agree in the sense it's very much not, we're not a hotel. Like medicine is not a hotel. It's very much treatment. And so I think there needs to be kind of a fine line between those two. And I agree. So when I'm not a surgeon, which we need to be very sterile, obviously, due to infection and all the risks that everybody here knows about, but my office is very like loungy, like couches, and you know what I'm saying? I think we can make our clinics plant-like, very nature, very loungy, but I do think the hospital setting in certain aspects still needs to be very much patient care, patient treatment.
Susan?
So I have a different take. So no one here probably knows, maybe Donna does, that before medicine, I got a degree in architecture and urban planning. And so my approach is not from a designy, not a designer, like what the fabrics are and what the wall paint is and where they would plant over here or a picture over there, even though that's kind of cute. Mine is actually the functioning of the building. And very, very, very few medical centers slash hospitals slash clinics are designed efficiently. One of my projects was designing an inpatient cancer treatment ward for one of the world famous cancer centers. And boy, did I learn a lot. That was a long time ago. But the bottom line is, if you don't have a space, and I mean multiple spaces where you are working, that works well, then you see what we all see. There's like an awkward table over here, and that door is partly blocked because this person can't get in, and there's a weird machine over here. We don't know what it does. It's the clutter. And so how you move through the space, doesn't work well. And so there's always these kind of one-offs about how you kind of fix it. But the end problem is you can't do some cute little wall colors and window dressings and pictures to make up for a very poorly designed space. So I think there's a lot, and maybe Regina, you were speaking to this when you talked about abroad, but there's some centers that do it well. Not many, because most of us, if not all of us, work in places that are either hospitals or clinics that go back a ways. They're not brand new. And of course, we don't have the money. Why would we put money into, lavish furnishings? So it's really about the design of the space. And that's a very interesting niche in terms of where smart people could do a better job for us.
This is so true, Susan. So, I was fortunate to visit Duke University Center for Integrative Medicine. And, you an architect, you would appreciate it. It was a number of years back. They actually built their integrative medicine clinic. It's an ambulatory pavilion, so it's strictly speaking not a hospital, but they built it with the healing space in mind. So not only their entire design was specific to help patients on the healing journey and also to give their staff what they need in terms of working space and relaxation space, they also managed to make it environmentally one of the best buildings in the entire area, that you sort of University Triangle. So I think, this goes to more than just prettiness, right? Or being like a hotel. What about the impact of hospitals and the environment? Hospitals have tremendous impact on the environment, everything from medical waste to the electricity that they're using. In my mind also, I always resented the VIP floors, because I don't know if for all of you, probably when you trained, right, you always knew that certain patients would go to the VIP floor and other patients will not, right? So where is equity and sort of fairness in that, right? And yet all the major institutions have it. Cleveland Clinic has a hotel attached to it. There are a lot of very interesting examples in that regard. So there is a responsibility, I think, also for environmental stewardship as well, in that design part.
I wonder what the original poster does for a living, because I have some ideas. Is this someone in healthcare? Because my guess is it's someone who makes a living undermining healthcare and like trying to sell supplements or courses or something like that. Do you guys have any thoughts?
I'm going to have you retract selling supplements and courses, because I do both.
Well, I think like anything, it can be done well, or it can become snake oil, right? So, I think that's also what Brad is saying, that, if someone puts that up as an example of like, here's what it looked really nice, this way, that wouldn't make you heal faster. That may appeal to some people or not appeal to others. That then you can, what's our taste? Like that may not be my taste. It's just a matter of, like what you were saying, Regina, environments and spaces that can actually lend themselves to having people work in a space better and feel better and function better. And, oh yeah, if you're getting care there, hopefully you're feeling better in that sense. Maybe not healing faster, just acknowledging that your experience is impacting you.
I am going to go on to the next clip. The conversation so far has been really, really great. So I applaud each and every one of you for putting in just really great insight into these little snippets. The next one is actually not healthcare related, but is still an interesting little interaction, I'll call it, that I want us to watch. It's about a minute and a half, and then just give our initial kind of knee-jerk reaction to. So here we go.
If you're not going to tip, you're not getting groceries.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
What the heck?
I work too hard for my money, lady.
Okay, you work for a job. You're doing your job. Your job
I am
doesn't
doing my job, but I don't work for free.
I don't do
I don't
tips.
work for free. Understand?
I don't do tips.
Well,
Do
then, you know what?
understand?
That is just unethical of you.
It's unethical.
That's unethical and un-American of you. Understand that?
Un-American?
Un-American.
Okay, what's actually American?
Un-American. You're not getting any of this. You're going to go get it by yourself.
So you're going to steal from me. You're stealing my groceries that I paid for.
I'm returning this so that you can go and find it.
Okay.
You can go get it yourself, you lazy.
I paid an app. I paid an app for you to shop for my groceries. You are my shopper.
That's right, but
The company should pay you whatever you're worth. I'm sorry if you're not worth that much, but I don't tip, sweetheart. Okay, I tip my hairdresser. I don't tip somebody who this is $40 worth of groceries. You think you deserve a $4 tip? You want 10% of that? Would that make you feel better? Yeah?
yeah, it would.
Okay, then
Let me tell you something.
You're not going to get it
Why don't
lazy.
you wake up a little bit? I wish I could just slap you in the face right now.
Well, that's...
Because you deserve a slap.
Oh
in the face,
my
lady.
gosh. Are you...
Yeah, you do.
I'm recording
You deserve a slap to wake you up.
Oh my God.
I
Okay.
mean, come on. We're in 2024.
Yeah.
People are
I'm
smart.
going to jump in right now. I feel queasy. I feel like saw two human beings that had no clue how to interact. Hostility, aggression, entitlement, disdain, your job, I'm paying you. I mean, it was just disgusting to watch this, and you can it's like playground. He pushed me first. Oh, you pushed me second. Well, if you ask for a tip, I think it sounded like he asked for a tip and that set her off. The whole thing just seemed ridiculous to me. You could say, okay, in this country, there's way too much tipping. It's got out of hand. In Europe, there's less tipping, and why should we pay extra? But then you get into this high platform of, well, our workers getting paid their worth and so forth. But just the essence of it was watching these two adults in quotation marks, just kind of getting at each other. It was just very vile, and in a parking lot. Ooh.
So I think the two different things. I don't condone however they reacted, but what I took out of it is the tipping culture. And there was another group I'm part of that they had a big conversation about this where a certain person just expected a tip, but it was a service that did not require a tip. Like I went in, I got my stuff, I walked out. So there's a lot of discussion going on the tipping culture in America. My family's from another country. I just spent a whole month in a different country where tipping was not expected. And in America, we tip a lot. So I would tip and they were so excited versus entitled. So I'm in a different mind space right now because I am in a mind space of if you're doing a service and your service is not tip independent, AKA you're not in the food industry where I know you depend on your tip. Anything I give you should be because you have gone above and beyond the job that you've done, because that's what I've experienced in the last month. But I also know there's some people who that's all they depend on. I think some people, when they go for a service, they have budgeted that amount for that service. And they may not have wanted have that extra $10, $15, $30. We're all physicians, so we're not in this category. But I do know some people where they got, like this lady was telling me, she went and got her hair done. She paid $200 for her hair to get it done. And the lady expected a tip. The service was already way above the budget she had. And the lady was not happy with her because she didn't tip her above that. So I think the tipping culture has gone a little bit overboard, but it's very individualized. I don't agree with entitlements in any space. But as far as how they communicate it, I also do not agree with that either.
I think also if you look at what she bought, right?
We'll be right back. Private Practice 101 is the latest in virtual conferences you can access on our site.
I'm going to talk to you about lease negotiations and purchase negotiations.
I'll talk about how to prepare, plan, and organize your personal finances when you are starting out on your own private practice.
We're going to talk about how to apply this information
to detect and prevent fraud.
This talk is for doctors who are fed up with the overregulation of patient care.
And I'm excited to teach you the ins and outs of how to build a thriving referral network and Facebook group.
And how to build in compliance efforts and strengthen your negotiation tactics. Because I want you to make money and I want you to stay safe.
I'm really looking forward to talking with you about creating and retaining a high-functioning team.
About the psychological and emotional things that undoubtedly come up as you reach certain barriers.
Marketing yourself as a professional in the world of today.
Form a virtual corporation and use your practice skills in a virtual environment that allows you to thrive without having to worry about managing overhead, managing a staff, or even managing a building.
Top mistakes in credentialing and those key metrics you're going to want to monitor in order to increase your revenue in your practice.
How to overcome your fear and move from your medical practice now into a private practice.
I'll share 3 distinct skills that when you use them, you can create and maintain a long-lasting, passionate marriage while becoming a very successful practice owner.
My talk called Creating a Vision and Applying It to Build Your Practice is going to help you streamline your process and create the practice of your dreams.
Stop trading the value you provide to patients for cost.
I'm going to teach you how to learn your value and your worth, how it is you get paid and what you actually cost, and how to train your sniffometer and know when to leave.
Access this valuable resource at doctorsonsocialmedia.com/conferences. Now back to the show.
I think also if you look at what she bought, right? Like I'm not sure how the cost works on these delivery apps, right? Maybe they're paid based on a percent, right? And so if she's buying giant containers of water, which are inexpensive, but very heavy to move around, I would think would be appropriate to tip this person because the decision is that's not like integrated out into how the app works, as opposed to someone who bought like a bunch of very small, light, but expensive stuff and had that delivered. Great. Okay. Now it's not very hard for this person to deliver. So I think, there are some industries where it's baked in and some industries where we're not sure. And some occasions like this where it might be the right thing, even though it is baked in because of what you bought, tipping would be appropriate. Clearly, I agree with both of you in the way that the interaction took place. There's a lot to be learned on how to not talk and interact with other people. That's a big lesson there. But I think there's some fluidity to your point, Lola, with tipping versus not tipping.
This is an interesting vignette, Dana, and I'm wondering why you picked it, but maybe just for the fun of it. But I agree with Lola that the tipping culture has definitely gotten out of control. There's been a lot of articles about this. The other day I went to get a cup of coffee and literally, this little message pops up, automated message, how much tip do you want to leave? And I struggle with it because I feel like because it pops up, right, it's in front of us, you sort of feel obliged that you have to leave something, right? It becomes an expectation and it becomes a behavioral norm as opposed to you leaving it at your discretion, right? So I think there is a problem with that because it kind of puts you in in that little manipulative, the situation is manipulative. That's what I don't like about it. I think it's manipulative. At the same time, a lot of these giant companies that have eliminated mom and pop stores where people used to have relationships and get their groceries, right? Like Amazon's and Walmart's and whatnot, they're trying to cover this last mile. They are giving supposedly the gig economy an opportunity by hiring drivers and delivery personnel. And they are essentially making a lot of money in the back end, but they're actually not paying those people enough. Let's just say it that way. They're not paying them enough. They're just using those people. And, unfortunately, it's sad because we're probably even going to see more of that as AI unfolds. A lot of these kind of more transactional, specific task-oriented jobs may become eliminated. So, so I think that this is a tough one. I think both of these individuals, as Susan said, they both are having a bad day. They're certainly not communicating as adults. Bad day for both of them.
Sound-
My question, real quick, just would be like, where do we draw the line as far as like tipping? When you get a to-go order, like now I go to pick up my food and they'll be like tip. And I'm like, but you guys are just preparing the food. Like drive-throughs. If we go through a drive-through now, do we have to tip? And then almost to Regina, I'll play devil's advocate. So to Regina's point, like, so are now the population responsible for tipping people because the big box companies aren't paying them enough. So now is it our responsibility to, we all know restaurants get paid below minimum wage, right? So everybody was used to tipping them, but I'm in the same boat as when I get my hair done or dyed. They have a cost, and then now everybody wants, you know what I'm saying, a tip on top of that. And I even went to a market, like a farmer's market, and we bought some, I don't know, vegetables or something. And they gave us the thing to scan with the tip already included. And I'm like, I'm paying for the cucumbers or strawberries. Why do I, on top of that, have to do a tip? And then they already include, just sign here, and they already have the tip included in the, in the cost. So like, I guess where is this big picture the line gonna be drawn?
I think if it's still optional, then it's our option not to tip and we don't have to feel guilty about it. And if we want to tip, then great, but if it's already baked in, that's a little, I can't imagine that at farmer's market.
Well, this makes me think, just as we close, this makes me think of another reel that's been going around where doctors are kind of finishing up like their anesthesiology role or whatever it is, and they turn the little tablet around and it says the tip. There's a few of those going around too. All right, that was great. And this is time for an audience challenge. So don't forget, use the hashtag SoMeDocs5, and we want to know, whose team are you on? Are you on the team of the a grocery shopper or the shopping recipient? Let us know. Don't forget to tag SoMeDocs so that we see. All right, here's our next segment.
I used to have trouble talking to my younger patients. Fortunately, the x-ray reveals a compound fracture.
I don't understand.
But thanks to Duolingo, I learned fluent Gen Z. Bro, these test results are not giving.
Oh my God.
Don't worry, we finna give your leg a high-key glow-up. No cap. Go off, bestie. Duolingo is not just teaching languages, it's saving lives. Releasing him. Vibe check.
Vibes are sus.
Bro! Leslie's out here spilling tea about the total snack you've been risen up. It's not dying for me.
Now she understood the assignment.
Thanks, Duolingo.
What in the world was said? I mean, I have a few questions for you guys, but please somebody translate for me what those words mean.
Do your boys not talk like that?
My
I
boy,
know what sus means. I think I know what sus means. I heard it before.
that was one of my questions. I was going to
Sus?
challenge each of you to explain the different words. So here, you go first. One of the questions was, what's sus, as in vibes are sus?
Suspect.
Like not good,
Suspect.
right?
Sus is suspect.
Suspicious. That's short.
But what does it mean, vibes are suspicious?
Yeah, that
You're
like,
feeling vibes,
things are off.
Like I
Things
feel a
are off.
vibe. You're feeling the feeling.
The vital signs.
Suspicious. So suspicious is like not right. I'm not
Oh,
about
so
it.
it's bad, like a bad,
It's
like
bad.
a
Yeah,
bad.
I'm having
bad.
a bad vibe. Exactly.
Yeah.
Love it.
The-
Okay.
The Gen Z wants it has to be vibe for everything, right? Like, you can have different vibes. Like I learned a new word, it's called operator, right? So my daughter came up to me and says, oh, so and so, she's your operator. I'm like, what does that mean? She's my operator. So it's somebody who sort of makes you behave a certain way, even if you don't want to, in a social situation, so it's like, but there are all these interesting categories going on.
So can I say I'm vibing? Like, is it also a verb, guys? Is it also a verb? Vibing?
Oh, you're totally vibing.
I'm vibing. Okay. Vibing. Okay. Next question. What's a high key glow up? Take it away, whoever. Yeah, that was in there. A high, and I don't mind showing it again, but high key glow up, please translate for me.
I'm going to guess. So, when you say low key is kind of like, I low key think like I don't have I have a low suspicion, so high key is like I'm And I'm totally guessing, guys. I am. And hike is kind of like maybe I have a higher suspicion for that, Let me know.
I don't
I
know.
can text my Gen Zer. I have no clue, but I do know no cap. I can explain that
I know
one.
no cap. Yeah.
Please.
I am excited. I just learned that last week. So apparently, no capping. Mom, no cap. I was like, what? That means no lie. Like I'm not lying. Like, or you're capping. That means you're like lying, like not telling the truth or something. I did hear no capping in there too. So
What's the root of no cap? Because sus makes sense, suspicious, suspect. Riz makes sense, charisma. Where's cap from?
Capital punishment?
Like no capital letters? Like you're yelling in capital letters?
Yeah, I don't know where the root of that particular word is, but
What is that? Entomology, the roots of the words? We're doing entomology or
I can translate boomer speak, but not 20. My 24-year-old daughter's.
Your conversation is very etymology dependent.
There was also not giving, as in these test results are not giving.
Not what I like. It's not giving what I want it to be, right? It's not
giving good stuff, good pleasure.
Good vibes, exactly. It's not giving
good vibes.
Okay.
In other words, they're sus.
Yeah, you're not capping, Lola. Really, you're not.
We're totally vibing here, Dana. Totally vibing. Totally vibing.
Not capping. Lola, you win on this round. All right.
We are those people that we never thought we would be. Right? We are 100% them.
This is not good. All right. This is where the audience needs to really interact with us on social media and like teach us like what the other words meant in that thing. And also, is there like some CME course out there that we can take on this? Because we need to communicate better. All right. I think
Regina was talking about that earlier, how we really need to get on the level that our patients are coming from and talk to them as they
nice
need to be
segue
communicated
there.
with.
Yeah, exactly.
So, right, we need to start integrating words like Riz and Ohio and Skibbity and these other Gen Z words.
Sus.
Cap.
I was just throwing out the fact that I knew a couple of the words that were not.
Oh, were those real?
Yeah, good job.
I did not make that stuff up. Yeah.
Wait, what is Ohio and what is Riz?
So Riz is charisma. Like if you're like
okay,
10 Riz,
yeah.
you've got a lot of charisma.
You got a Riz, okay.
Like likable, I guess.
And Ohio?
Oh, I think Ohio means like apologies if someone's from Ohio. I think it's like boring. I think.
Ooh.
And skibbity can mean a lot of different things, mostly bad.
Yeah, I saw the skibbity toilet. But
Yes, from skibbity toilet. That's the origin of the word. Yes.
Okay.
So Brad, should there be a Chat GPT Gen Z version for the large language model?
Exactly.
Can we turn on that little?
Oh man. Or is that
There's
just going
an
to
O, so
automatically
we can make
happen?
it a Z.
Is that going to automatically happen? Like I'll ask ChatGPT to like write a thank you letter and it's going to start including some of those Gen Z terms automatically because they're the ones that are producing so much content online.
It's funny they have this. They look like pens that you could take around when you travel to foreign countries, and you have an earpiece, and as they talk, it kind of translates it automatically.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Oh.
AI, yeah, it's amazing, and I feel like I need that when I'm talking to this Gen. Yeah, I'll just like put it in, and as I talk, it kind of translates it back to me.
This is awesome. All right, let's share the screen, and this might be the last post that we're going to share, but this has been amazing. Okay, let's share the screen on this one. Okay, so we are looking at a tweet by C. Michael Gibson, and it says, San Francisco funds $5 million program to provide, quote, managed use of alcohol to homeless alcoholics. Nurses serve 1 to 2 drinks 3 to 4 times a day, either 1.7 ounces of vodka or liquor, a shot, 5 ounces of wine, 1 glass, or 12 ounces of beer, about 3/4 of a pint. So do you think this is smart or not smart? Take it away, whoever's brave enough.
I'm going to answer with, if I saw this on the internet, I would say this is fake and I'm not going to waste my time with a response. Ta-da!
Fake
I just
news.
want to know the reasoning behind it. I'm missing something.
I mean, there might be some epidemic of like homeless deaths from alcohol withdrawal. And so what they're doing is they're trying to like they might be having like a massive number because they have a big problem with unhoused people in San Francisco. And so comes with that, right? What percent of them have alcohol dependence disorder, right? And how many of those might suddenly lose access to alcohol, go into alcohol withdrawal, and end up in the emergency department. So there might be a very real crisis here, and this is a way to address that crisis. I think if you're looking at it from the objective, oh, are they like waitresses that are serving them cocktails? Like that's an interesting way to look at it. But the other way to look at it would be is this a way of mitigating, in the same way that you're providing safe needles, and that decreases the risk of IV drug use transmitted disease, right? This might be in a similar vein. So I think there might be something real that's happening here. I am on the opposite coast. I'm not familiar. I didn't see that tweet before, but this might be a genuine thing, and that's what they're addressing here.
Well, we have a
So
huge
I would-
unhoused population here in Seattle, and I would be stunned because it'll be a taxpayer issue. I'd be stunned if anybody anywhere here, our taxes are super high already, would pay for that. Now they would pay for trying to find housing or temporary facilities for people who need housing. They would pay for needle exchange programs. They would pay for a lot of services, but not alcohol. So again, this seems very suspect to me, very odd.
Sus?
Very
sus.
Sus.
Very sus. Very
And
sus.
I would say that it's I don't feel like this is more of a needle exchange as it is giving them the cocaine to continue their drug use. That's what I equate it to.
Right.
So if I'm
Yeah.
giving an alcoholic more alcohol to prevent withdrawals, I might as well give a cocaine or heroin
Yep.
addict fund that so they don't go on withdrawals on the street. I think that's a very different, why don't you start with medication that out of, or some type of development or a treatment facility, fund that, not handing them the gun or the heroin or the alcohol, whatever it is, to go and, off themselves essentially. So,
I mean, I have no expertise in this area, and so I don't know if this is how this is treated, right? That might be, understand the taxpayer money, but that those taxpayers also are paying for all those emergency department visits and the inpatient stays, which could be astronomically expensive. And so alcohol, actually, pre-tax, not that expensive. So this might actually be saving money. Again, I'm an ear, nose, and throat doctor in New York. I can help stop their nosebleeds and maybe take out their tonsils.
I go with Lola. I think this post was sus.
Yeah, I go with Lola because I think whoever is the author of this program, honestly, is the socially responsible, because there's an opportunity cost. For $5 million, one can actually make quite a few opportunities for a rehab program, even right then and there, education, rehabilitation. And that's a problem. They're just throwing money or certain things in the problem, signaling that they're doing something. They're not doing anything of substance. It's not going to change those people's lives. And, we should do better than that. We're a country that has a lot of resources.
Do rehabilitation programs, do they work?
They work for those who attend them, right? They do work.
They work
but
more
they're
than giving
difficult.
more alcohol.
Right?
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think in this case, especially if they're homeless, when you provide them a place to stay and you rehab them while they're at it, I think it can work. But again, we don't know the full context, so I can't really say much to that. But the post standing by itself, still sus.
and benzos are just as cheap now. They're generics. I mean, you can get those relatively cheap. So cheaper than maybe beer.
All right, that was fantastic. I'm actually teetering between doing another one versus just ending it here. What are you all in the mood for? Let's do one more. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. We'll do one more exciting, a bit more humorous one, and then we will comment on it. Here we go.
Well, that's the episode. Hey, man, thank you so much for being on my podcast. Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Uber for Adam?
Yes, sir. Aux cord, water. Want to do my podcast?
So how'd you get started? I'm just gonna walk.
Spare change. Yeah. No, spare change. It's the name of my podcast. See here, take a mic. What's it like giving spare change to people?
No thanks.
Ah!
I'm so sorry about that. Oh! Hey, would you like to be our podcast? Would you like to be on our podcast? Alexa, lock all doors.
Yes, but first, would love for you to do my podcast. So, tell me how you got started.
Everybody has a podcast.
That was one of the reactions, please.
Well, having written a book and been on about 25 different podcasts, I'm actually kind of almost done with podcasts because it's like, unless you're famous, who's gonna watch this? That's all I'll say.
My question to you was going to be, that's actually close to one of the questions. My question is, number one, is becoming an influencer all that it's cracked up to be?
Why you're an influencer and what impact? What are you influencing? You know, I'm one of those people. I've been doing podcasts since 2018. So one of the quote unquote OGs before podcast was popular. I think I'm on my third or fourth podcast now. So I think it's been democratized and everybody has an option to do it. But one great thing about podcasts is if you're not given an impact in it, it's not going to grow. So just like anything, I'm actually one of those people. If they ask me, should I do it? I encourage everybody to do a podcast. I don't get kicked podcast at all, but the more impact you give, the more information you give, the more you help people, the more it will grow. So I'll be on everybody's podcast.
Me too. I'll go with you because I have not started podcasting yet. So I feel like I should be the one running after this guy, so that I can be on the podcast. But honestly, if you think about it, with so much content generated, we are overwhelmed with content, right? And a lot of content right now is generated now in a way that has to do with AI. So it's really not authentic. So I think, the podcasts, and whether you just audio or YouTube, in many ways, at least since I'm going to try to do it, I'm convinced myself of that. It's an opportunity for people actually to hear from you. It could be a small circle, it could be a bigger circle. I don't think personally I will aspire to be an influencer. If that happens, great, but maybe I'll just influence, kind of like my little circle around me. So, it's a form of self-expression. Why not?
I actually had a podcast and stopped doing a podcast. I was an early adopter too, back in 2018, 2019. My goal was to reach more people. And I did kind of outside of my practice, but it was for me, it ended up being very time consuming. I had to hire somebody to edit and, kind of do all of those things because I don't have time myself to do it. And I don't know how to do it. I mean, I'm not, but I was not in the generation who was like very, like, Dana, you're very savvy. Like you know what I'm saying? I never learned how to do all that stuff. And so it ended up being more of a cost for me because, it would take up a time. I had to go find guests, which aren't that difficult, but, and then I had to have somebody edit it and then you have to push it out. So, so for me, and I actually really enjoyed doing it, but it was more of a time management. So, I recommend everybody doing it. You definitely can reach people. They hear your voice. I agree with everything said, but definitely there's other things that you need to take into account. It depends on where you're at as far as like, work balance, life load, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Well put.
I guess I should answer, because I'm still podcasting. I started back in the summer of 2018. I have like 300, somewhere between 350 and 400 shows. I think the question was, is being an influencer all it's cracked up to be? I think I can answer that question when I become an influencer. I don't think I have a large enough following yet to be considered an influencer. But the reason I do it and the reason I continue to do it is because every interview for me is like a coaching session. It's a coaching session for me because I'm the audience, I'm the avatar. That's who I'm creating the content for. Maybe that's why it hasn't exploded in popularity because I'm doing it by me, for me. And so I can't answer the question. I'm not an influencer. I don't have enough of a reach to be considered that.
I like what you said, Brad. And actually, I'm attracted to people who are not influencers. So, if someone's an influencer and they have probably 50 million followers or what, I don't even want to watch them. I want some more human connection and personal touch, like what Regina was saying. So, yeah, I don't know. There's got to be some middle ground.
And
I
with that
would
skit,
argue that we are all influencers in our little microcosm that we have. You may influence 5 people, 20 people, 5 million. And in your little area, I'm sure they love you and you're making an impact. And as long as you're making an impact, you're influencing. The question is, are you going to pay for it? That's up to whatever you're trying to achieve.
And actually, yeah, we do have sponsors on the show. So, I'm building it as a business now in a couple of different directions. And that skit where everyone wants that guy on their podcast as a podcaster, it's actually in the other direction. You talk to someone, they're like, "Oh, I think I'd be a great guest on your show," and you're like, "It's not really the direction." Like everyone is like, "Oh, I can help you. I can be a guest," and you have you constantly have PR people reaching out to you, like tons of people. It's never a question of having enough guests. It's always just having enough of an audience and increasing that reach. That's the perennial task. If you even want it, if you even want, that more visibility, because that, as to Donna's point, comes with a cost.
That's so interesting because Dr. Anish Patel, he's a hospitalist in New York, was just on our series called Dr. Side Ventures. And that's like pretty much a brand new series, but he was actually talking about podcasting, and that came up, the fact that he does it himself. He does it because it just makes him feel good to know that he's impacting even just like one email that says, I listened to that show and it made a difference in my life. That to him is sort of like a personal success where he's like, I really don't even care if I make money. I mean, he says like, would it be cool to make money? Yes. But like, I'm doing it to make those small little impacts because my day job is my main job. So
yeah.
With that, right. Share with us the name of your podcast and what guests you're looking to bring on, except if you're Dr. Bradley Block, in which case do not share because he's overwhelmed with guests. All right, guys, it has been such a fantastic hour. I thank each and every one of you. I hope that you've had as much fun as I have. And the best part is that this is not even the end because each and every one of you is actually coming back to another episode of The Five, where we will be dissecting even more really fun posts and tweets and things. And so I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I have. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks so much for listening.